In Brazil, this year's G20 Summit has concluded where South Korean President Yoon shared the country's actions for a transition to clean energy and ways to address climate change. South Korea's intel agency says some North Korean troops in Russia are now on special forces assignments and have taken part in combat against the Ukrainian forces. It also raises the possibility of Kim Jong-un visiting Russia. Ukraine uses long-range American missiles against Russia for the first time since Moscow's full-scale invasion 1,000 days ago. It's November 20th, 8 p.m. in Seoul. This is Newscenter. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Min. The meeting of the group of 20 major economies has concluded in Brazil. President Yoon has reaffirmed his commitment to supporting the world's transition to clean energy and contributing to a net zero future. Our top office correspondent Kim Do-yeon reports.
At the G20, world leaders choose either session 2 or 3 to make an address according to the session's topic, and President Yoon this year chose session 3 as its theme was Sustainable Development and Energy Transitions. Session 2 was held under the theme Global Governance Reform. On Tuesday local time, President Yoon took the opportunity to share South Korea's actions to overcome the climate crisis and support the world's transition to clean energy.
In particular, he called for the support of G20 leaders for the carbon-free energy initiative aimed at promoting the use and dissemination of various clean energy sources, including nuclear power.
President Yoon also reiterated his message from last year that Korea will act as the green ladder, supporting developing countries vulnerable to climate change. As for sustainable development, President Yoon emphasized the need for a reduction in plastic use. The South Korean government is set to support the 5th session of the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee, also known as INC5, for the formulation of the International Plastics Treaty by its members, as the event is being held in South Korea's port city of Busan on November 25th.
The president will emphasize that efforts in energy transition must go hand in hand to achieve greater innovation in addressing plastic pollution and driving digital transformation.
This is because the rapid surge in demand for advanced digital technologies, such as artificial intelligence, is leading to massive energy consumption. Meanwhile, President Yoon also wrapped up his G20 trip with more sideline summits as he called for support for South Korea's condemnation of North Korea's deployment of troops to Russia. In addition, Yoon promised South African President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa that South Korea would cooperate with the nation as it hosts the next G20. Yoon and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer acknowledged the progress that the bilateral relations have made so far based on the Downing Street Accord. President Yoon is now on his way back to Seoul. He is set to arrive early morning on Thursday, Seoul time, after 8 days abroad. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
And the G20 Summit took place under a cloud of much uncertainty this year. President-elect Donald Trump is returning to the White House with tougher tariffs, and Russia continues its invasion of Ukraine involving North Korean troops. Kim Jong-sil has more.
Under the theme Building a Just World and a Sustainable Planet, the 19th G20 Summit in Rio de Janeiro wrapped up on Tuesday local time with leaders pledging collective action on climate change, poverty, and inequality. Global trade took center stage, with members reaffirming their commitment to a fair, open, multilateral system amid rising protectionist sentiments expected under the Donald Trump administration's second term. China's President Xi Jinping, a standout figure at the summit, advocated for stronger economic ties with developing nations, including those in the global south, and promoted unilateral trade policies, likely seeking allies amid the shifting global dynamics caused by Trump's election. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, representing President Vladimir Putin, warned that Ukraine's use of long-range ATACMS missiles against its territory marked a new phase of the Western war and vowed that Russia would respond accordingly. President Yoon called for an immediate halt to military cooperation between Russia and North Korea. He emphasized the need for the international community to recognize its illicit nature and work together to end it. Brazil's President Lula pushed for a global wealth tax and successfully launched the Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty, but struggled to unite nations on climate funding and fossil fuel limits. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden, in his final G20 appearance before retiring, missed a key photo opportunity due to a late arrival, but ended the summit with smiles during the final session. The next G20 Summit is scheduled to take place in South Africa next year. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
In other news, South Korea's National Intelligence Agency has updates on the developments of North Korean troops in Russia, as it also brings up Kim Jong-un's potential visit to Russia. Our Kim Bo-kyung tells us more.
The North Korean troops that have been deployed to Russia have partially participated in combat, assigned to Russia's airborne brigade and marine units. According to South Korea's National Intelligence Service in a briefing to the Parliamentary Intelligence Committee on Wednesday, 11,000 North Korean soldiers completed adaptation training in Russia's northeast and were relocated to Kursk in late October. While assigned to airborne brigade and marine units, the soldiers are reportedly undergoing tactical and counter-drone training, while some have already engaged in combat operations. As they have been deployed to frontline combat, the agency says North Korean casualties are likely to emerge and that they are trying to figure out the details of any possible prisoners and surrenders. The agency further confirmed that Pyongyang had additionally exported 170mm self-propelled artillery guns and 240mm multiple rocket launchers to Moscow. This adding on to the previous exports of artillery shells and missiles.
These weapons are not the ones Russia has been using. So the agency says there is the possibility that North Korean personnel could have been dispatched for operational training and maintenance.
Regarding North Korean Foreign Minister Choi Sun-hee's recent visit to Russia earlier this month, the NIS said it was to show off unwavering bilateral ties between Pyongyang and Moscow. What is notable is that Che held a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin on November 4th, which at first Moscow was not very into.
There must have been quite important and sensitive matters discussed during the meeting between Choi Sun-hee and President Putin, along with cautious speculation that Kim Jong-un might visit Russia.
The agency reportedly said it would keep a close watch on what weapons, equipment, or technologies Pyongyang may receive from Moscow. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
The commander of U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, Samuel Paparo, believes North Korea has yet to secure atmospheric re-entry capability, a key technology for the reuse of intercontinental ballistic missiles. Admiral Paparo's remarks came on Tuesday during a forum hosted by the Brookings Institution in Washington, D.C. For North Korea to threaten the U.S. with an ICBM, the regime reportedly needs to secure a sufficient range along with re-entry technology, both of which have allegedly not been developed yet. However, the admiral points out North Korea's military cooperation with Russia may allow the regime access to critical technology to further advance its weapons capabilities, including submarine and missile propulsion technology. Turning to an escalation of tensions between Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine has launched U.S.-made long-range missiles into Russian territory following Moscow announcing its updated nuclear doctrine. Moon Hye-ryun has the latest.
Ukraine has fired American-made long-range missiles at Russia for the first time, just a day after outgoing U.S. President Biden gave the green light for such weapons to be used. On Tuesday, the Russian Defense Ministry stated that Kyiv used 6 ATACMS, which stands for Army Tactical Missile System, against a military facility in the Bryansk region which borders Ukraine. They claim to have intercepted 5 and damaged the 6th. Ukraine, however, said the attack was successful and struck an arms depot around 70 miles inside Russian territory. Regardless of the attack's outcome, the event is significant as it marks the first instance of Ukraine using Western-provided long-range weapons to strike Russia's mainland.
Ukraine's priority is to seize as much strategic assets and territorial assets before there will be a ceasefire negotiations taking place in conjunction with the inauguration of the new president of the United States, Donald Trump, on January 20th next year.
Following the approval of Ukraine's use of ATACMS, Biden has also authorized anti-personnel landmines in another effort to provide aid to Kyiv, according to a report from the Washington Post on Tuesday. These mines have been described as non-persistent by a U.S. official, meaning that they self-destruct or deactivate over time, reducing their threat to civilians. The U.S. has faced increasing pressure to allow Ukraine to use long-range weapons, particularly in light of reports that North Korean troops have been deployed to Russia and are participating in the war. The shift in Washington's policy heightens its involvement in the war, despite U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's criticisms of U.S. aid and pledge to end the war quickly. This comes after Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a new nuclear doctrine that expands the conditions under which it can use nuclear weapons. Notably, the revised doctrine states that any attack supported by a nuclear power could be considered a joint attack against Russia. It also lowers the threshold for the use of nuclear weapons to respond to attacks that pose a threat to Moscow or its allies. Russia has consistently maintained that any missile attack by a NATO member on its territory would constitute direct involvement in the conflict, and Putin's new doctrine creates a justification for a potential nuclear response. In response, Washington remarked that this latest move came as no surprise and criticized what it called irresponsible rhetoric from Russia. While Ukraine had initially been expected to attack the Kursk region where North Korean troops are reportedly deployed, experts say that this limited attack in a single location rather than Kursk could be a test to gauge Russia's reaction. With this latest attack from Kyiv, tensions are expected to escalate. 문혜련, Arirang News.
The International Monetary Fund has lowered its economic growth forecast for South Korea to 2% next year, citing weak demand at home. It's down by 0.2 percentage points from its earlier projection. The IMF says the country needs strong economic policies amid downside risks and greater efforts to deal with the shrinking workforce amid Korea's aging population. According to the finance ministry here, the comments were shared during the regular bilateral discussions that began on November 7th for roughly 2 weeks. Producer prices dropped in October, retreating for the third month in a row. According to the Bank of Korea on Wednesday, prices were pushed lower by a substantial decline in agricultural product prices, which plunged over 10% on month. The overall producer price index fell 0.1% from September's 119.16. On year, October's index is up 1% given the higher global oil prices. In the U.S., President-elect Trump has named billionaire investor and veteran Wall Street corporate leader Howard Lutnick as his Commerce Secretary to lead tariff and trade agenda. Lee Seung-jae has the details.
Higher tariffs and tighter trade policies are expected under the second Donald Trump administration come next January. With a lot of attention on who's going to help the U.S. president-elect lead the agenda, Trump on Tuesday tapped Cantor Fitzgerald CEO Howard Lutnick as his Commerce Secretary. Trump issued a statement saying Lutnick will lead the new administration's tariff and trade agenda, with additional direct responsibility for the Office of the United States Trade Representative. He added that as the co-chair of the Trump-Vance transition team, Lutnick has created the most sophisticated process and system to help create the upcoming administration. Lutnick has an extensive career on Wall Street, having joined the American financial services firm Cantor Fitzgerald in 1983 and quickly becoming the company's president at the young age of 29. However, on September 11, 2001, when terrorists attacked the World Trade Center, the firm lost 658 of its 960 New York-based employees. Lutnick is on the board of directors of the National September 11 Memorial and Museum and has long built his company to honor those lost in the tragedy and support their families. Next on the agenda for President-elect Trump is choosing his nomination for the Treasury Secretary. Trump is set to meet two key figures running for the position at Mar-a-Lago this week. Kevin Warsh, formerly the youngest person appointed to the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, and Mark Rowan, the CEO and co-founder of private equity giant Apollo, will meet Trump for an interview. Reports say that Trump's transition team is demanding the candidates promise to focus on the campaign promise of raising tariffs. The Secretary of the Treasury will be another key position under the incoming Trump administration, as they play a key role in designing U.S. economic policies such as trade, taxes, and banking regulations. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Over in Japan, a memorial service to remember workers in the former gold mines on Sado Island will be held this Sunday after months of debate. Eyes are on how Japan will honor Korean victims who were forced to work under harsh conditions at the controversial mine. Our Foreign Affairs correspondent Bae-Eun-ji explains.
The gold mines located on the island of Sado off Japan have long been at the center of historical disputes between Seoul and Tokyo, as it's a place where thousands of Koreans were forced to labor during Japan's colonial rule from 1910 to 1945. In July, Japan managed to register the controversial gold mines on the UNESCO World Heritage Site. At first, South Korea strongly protested against Japan's push to list the mine, but later accepted Japan's promise to reflect the mine's full history, including the abuse of Korean laborers. Upon listing, Japan promised to first install a new exhibition near the mines that features the severe conditions the Koreans had to work in, and second, to hold memorial services at the site annually to remember all the laborers that worked at the Sado Island gold mines. The two countries initially aimed to hold this memorial ceremony in July or August, but were unable to reach an agreement. After months of negotiations, they finally announced on Wednesday that the first memorial ceremony will be held this Sunday in Sado City, located on Sado Island. Japanese government officials, as well as local authorities and civic groups, will take part in the ceremony. Most of the Korean forced labor victims have now passed away, so surviving family members, 11 of them, will reportedly attend the event, along with Korean government delegations. The government here said it will continue to support the families who wish to attend the ceremony that will be held each year, but there are doubts as to whether Japan is willing to sincerely remember the victims' hardships at the event. This is because Japan has still made no mention of how the Koreans were forced into labor in the museum exhibition set up near the mines, despite repeated requests from the Korean government. Some parts of the exhibition even refer to the workers as peninsular people, a derogatory term for Koreans. As wartime forced labor victims and their families continue to seek a sincere apology, eyes are on whether the Japanese government will truly acknowledge its dark history at this week's event. Bae-Eun-ji, Arirang News.
A conference aimed at aligning global efforts in the management of human resources in public services took place here in Seoul as regional countries look to South Korea for its related strategy. Shin Ha-young has more.
The administrative environment is becoming more complex, partially due to rising retirement rates in the public workforce sector amid aging populations. While this creates opportunities to bring in new talent, it also poses a recruitment challenge for governments to make public service attractive. That's according to Yoon Blundell, head of the Public Management and Budgeting Division of the OECD, during the Asia Public Service Network Conference on Wednesday. Under the theme of the future of public service, managing people to transform government, the conference also featured an MPM-OECD joint study report.
One of the key takeaways is that there are so many opportunities, so many things that governments can do beyond simply looking at salaries to improve the attraction and retention of their employees. And I think it's in a really exciting position to be able to do a whole range of things that change the way that public servants work and that make them want to work longer and harder for their administration.
Regarding the attraction of top talent to the public service sector, Minister of Personnel Management Yoon Won-jung highlighted two key strengths of South Korea.
South Korea's strengths lie in its fair and transparent recruitment system and performance-based personnel management. By offering various incentives, we aim to help public officials find satisfaction in their work, grow their expertise, and enhance national competitiveness and government productivity.
The Asia Public Service Network was launched by South Korea in the OECD last year as a cooperative mechanism to align efforts in human resources management and has since shared Seoul's best practices with other countries.
South Korea and the OECD have been working together to share South Korea's best practices, including its digital human resources management system, with other countries. Starting next year, the National University of Mongolia will introduce a course on Korea's personnel administration. Vietnam, Cambodia, and Mongolia are also interested in benchmarking Korea's recruitment and training systems, and we are supporting these efforts, further expanding international cooperation.
Celebrating its 10th anniversary this year, the Ministry of Personnel Management says it aims to bring real changes in the civil service that the public can truly experience. 신하영, Arirang News.
The labor union of Seoul Metro, which operates subway lines 1 to 8, launched a work-to-roll slowdown protest on Wednesday. This entails intentionally driving metro trains slower than usual, leading to inconvenience for passengers. Seoul Metro's labor union held a press conference on Tuesday and announced its demands, such as a wage hike and the withdrawal of a single attendance system amid restructuring efforts. The union plans to go on a full-scale strike in early December if the demands are not met. The Korean Railway Workers Union began a similar protest earlier this week, causing delays to several metro lines. The former CEO of ADOR, Min Hee-jin, is officially leaving the agency and its parent agency, HYBE. In a statement on Wednesday, Min announced her resignation as an internal director at ADOR and the termination of the shareholder agreement with HYBE. Throughout the dispute, Min has emphasized her efforts to protect new genes within the company. Ongoing for over 7 months, the conflict began when HYBE accused Min of attempting to seize control of the label, a claim she refuted, saying she was being framed by HYBE. She also reaffirmed her commitment to holding HYBE legally accountable for alleged illegal activities, signaling that her fight is far from over.
With morning temperatures in single figures all over the country, the feels-like temperatures will continue to be much lower tomorrow. Mild temperatures of 14 degrees Celsius will prevail for the daytime in Seoul. Due to smoke from overseas, Incheon and southern parts of Gyeonggi-do province will have poor air quality tonight. The concentration of ultrafine dust will increase in these areas too. In addition, more light rain is expected in the Seoul metropolitan area, western parts of Gangwon-do province, and northern parts of the Chungcheong-do provinces, but the amount of rainfall will be small. Morning temperatures will be 4 degrees in Daegu and Gyeongju, Busan 8 degrees. Daily highs will move up to 13 in Chuncheon, Gyeongju and Jeju 16 degrees. Rain or snow is forecast in the eastern parts of Gangwon-do province this weekend. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
And that is Newscenter for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session up next.
How to survive in Korea. Workplace. Step 1. Lunchtime. The most important morning routine is to check today's menu. Food is essential for survival. Memorize today's menu. The highlight of office life. Lunchtime. Rice in the bottom left, soup in the bottom right. The top is for the sides. The sauce and the spoon go here. This is the basic layout, but it's a bit odd to switch rice and soup. When you're done, pour the leftovers into the soup bowl. It doesn't look that appetizing, so wait until others are done eating. Step 2. Neng, nep, nenep. These are the most used expressions at work. Choose the most appropriate form. Neng, nep, nenep. Remember that the formal ne can sound a bit stiff. Did you just say yes? Absolutely not acceptable. You want to find the right word for the right occasion. Step 3. Desteria. Desteria is the oasis in the desert. Show them your character. If you're not the diligent type, get a stookie plant. Work is tough. Laugh and the whole world laughs with you. Weep and you weep alone. Stay put, like the stookie that survives in the desert. Hang in there until the end. Of course, you can always quit. You matter more than anything else. Step 4. Survival kit. Every worker needs a survival kit. Survival kit level 1. This position gets the most exposure. Grab one when you need a sugar boost. Always keep a few treats you can offer your co-workers. Survival kit level 2. These are for hunger pangs before and after a meal. You'll need them when you take a coffee break with your office buddies. Survival kit level 3. Trash talking your boss with your soulmate. Did you survive in the workplace? Office romance? Be careful. Even the photocopier knows all the gossip.
Hi, Chef Ryan here. Today we're going to make kimjang kimchi or winter kimchi.
and welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring today's most pressing global issues into focus. I'm Kim Mo-gen. The price of Bitcoin has soared to a new all-time high, surpassing $94,000 to break its highest price record again in just 6 days. Its value jumped over 4% from the previous day, fueling speculation that it could reach 100,000 by the end of the year. Now, this comes as the value of the crypto leader has been continuing a dramatic ascent in the 2 weeks since Donald Trump's victory in the U.S. presidential election. Market optimism was further fueled by news that Trump media is reportedly seeking to acquire a cryptocurrency exchange, raising hopes that the U.S. could become the global hub for digital assets. In addition, the recent nomination of Howard Lutnick, a known cryptocurrency advocate, as Trump's Secretary of Commerce, has further bolstered Bitcoin's bullish momentum, signaling a shift in Trump's stance on virtual currencies. For a deeper discussion on this, we're joined by Heo Jun-young, Associate Professor of Economics at Sagang University. Welcome to the program, Professor Heo.
Thanks for having me.
And also joining us is Shim Young-gyu, Associate Professor of Economics at Yonsei University. Great to have you, Professor Shim.
Thank you for having me too.
So let's first begin with Professor Heo. After the U.S. presidential election, the cryptocurrency market, including Bitcoin, seems to have reached an inflection point. Donald Trump, who previously called Bitcoin a scam, now claims he will be the crypto president after winning this election. What's behind this dramatic shift in stance?
As you pointed out in a media interview during his first term, President-elect Trump stated, Bitcoin seems like a scam, adding, I don't like it because it's essentially a currency competing with the dollar. He further emphasized that the U.S. dollar should be the currency of the world. But his position, his stance has been changed. His stance changed during this presidential election period. So one of the factors of such a change might be his own experience as a businessman with cryptocurrency. After selling sneakers bearing his name through cryptocurrency payment, which sold out within 2 hours of release, he experienced first time that crypto asset can be a serious business. Additionally, given that financial resources are crucial in U.S. presidential elections, he was not able to ignore the recent powerful cryptocurrency super PACs with significant funding. Finally, I think one of the other factors, like he got surrounded by a lot of crypto-friendly people, including Elon Musk. So I think these are the reasons.
Right, so he was able to experience himself, and now he's changed his mind. Now, Professor Shim, it's been about 2 weeks or so since the U.S. election. How would you assess the current state of the cryptocurrency market over this period?
Yeah, as it's pointed out earlier, so I would say it has been really a bull market. As is pointed out by Professor Heo, the president-elect and one of his main donor during the election period, Elon Musk, emphasized the role of cryptocurrency. And so the re-election of Trump reignited the optimism of the investors over the cryptocurrency market. Particularly, if you look at the price of Bitcoin, it was about $74,000 2 weeks ago, but it is now above $90,000. Which means that it has increased more than 20%. To me, this is really a surprising number. Even everybody knows that the cryptocurrency market is really volatile. Looking back, the price of Bitcoin in January makes us more surprising, as price was about $40,000, which is less than half of the current value. So considering the usual belief that the cryptocurrency does not have a fundamental value, but its price dynamics mainly heavily depends on the belief of the investors, the current state can continue for a while, unless until the new president-elect changes his stance on the cryptocurrency.
Right. And Bitcoin, like Professor Shim said, hit an all-time high of $94,000 after its rally following Trump's victory. Professor Heo, do you think it would be able to reach the 100,000 mark by the start of Trump's second term? And how do you foresee the future of the cryptocurrency market?
Yeah, I mean, in the short run, I think it is possible to reach $100,000 as the like price of the Bitcoin. I totally agree with Professor Sim in the sense that, I mean, like there's no fundamental value behind the crypto asset, including Bitcoin, but the recent rise in cryptocurrency prices appear to reflect expectations of the market regarding a revitalized Bitcoin market due to Trump's election. So, I mean, another important factor is now the Fed, the U.S. Central Bank, I mean, they are, lowering the interest rate. Another way of saying that is like now is the period of interest rate cut. So with this expectation coupled with the period of falling interest rate, I think Bitcoin could surpass $100,000 even before Trump takes office next January. However, I like to emphasize that since Trump's mouse played a critical role in the cryptocurrency rally in these days, it is also very likely that the volatility of cryptocurrencies will depend critically upon his future stance toward cryptocurrency. So I think the investors should be very careful about like changes in his stance about cryptocurrency.
Right, so we should watch how it fluctuates over the time. Now, one of the key factors affecting the crypto market is Trump's campaign promise to include Bitcoin as a U.S. strategic asset. Professor Shim, how likely is this promise to be realized, and what challenges could we face?
I guess that his promise, unless the inclusion of Bitcoin in the U.S. strategic asset, is likely to be held after Trump enters the White House, because he will be likely to be supported by the Republican Party, which also dominates both the Senate and House of Representatives. It has been reported that more than $150 million has been donated by the cryptocurrency industry to make the Congress cryptocurrency friendly. In addition, Elon Musk, who will lead one of the new government departments, is well known for his preference over the cryptocurrency. So the two main bodies of the government, the legislative branch and administration, have coincidence of preference over the cryptocurrency, which makes me to believe that the new government will set and conduct policies favorable for, say, the Bitcoin. And I also think that such a policy would be supported by many investors in the market because it can potentially increase the gain from the asset market.
Right, so it's a very feasible campaign pledge that he made. Now, aside from strategic assets, what other aspects of Trump's cryptocurrency policies should we pay attention to, Professor Ha?
I like to make three important points about his view about the cryptocurrency. So first of all, his strong opposition to central bank digital currencies, which is called CBDCs. Trump has continuously expressed the view that CBDCs are merely a means for the government to monitor and control individual free financial transactions and economic activities. So I think nowadays a lot of central banks in the world, they, push so hard to get the CBDC in practice. But this kind of stream, this kind of direction maybe has been limited by the Trump policy. Second, the importance of Bitcoin mining locations. Trump has been emphasizing that Bitcoin mining should be conducted entirely within the United States. So far, the Bitcoin mining has been conducted in a country with low electric price. But this implies fostering the domestic mining industry while imposing disadvantages on Bitcoin mined in other countries. Finally, Elon Musk's growing influence with the U.S. government is the last factor. So Musk, who played a critical role in popularizing the meme coin, so-called Dogecoin, is now taking on significant responsibilities in the government, raising the likelihood that he could influence regulatory policies related to Bitcoin. This might be the last issue to think about.
Right. Thank you for the clear explanation on that. But Professor, Trump officially nominated Howard Lutnick, the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, an investment bank known for its pro-cryptocurrency stance, as a Secretary of Commerce in his administration. What do you think, what impact will this have on the virtual asset market in the future?
Oh, at the very beginning of this program, you mentioned about his appointment and the importance of it. I mean, the Department of Commerce, which oversees industrial and economic policies of the United States, is a massive agency with an annual budget of $11 billion and 51,000 employees. It oversees and supervises areas such as semiconductors, which might have critical impact on the Korean economy, also cybersecurity and patents. Lutnick, who has worked in the financial industry for a long time, is favorable toward Bitcoin and other crypto assets. He has argued that Bitcoin should be classified as a commodity like gold or oil. Lutnick is also pointed out as the one who changed Trump's previously negative stance on crypto assets. So Lutnick's appointment is expected to accelerate the deregulation of the cryptocurrency market overall. Also, he's kind of very close person to Elon Musk. So maybe they are in the same boat.
Right. And with the surge in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies after Trump's election win, there's growing interest in whether South Korea might delay its tax implementation on crypto-based incomes scheduled for next year. Professor Shim, what are the main issues surrounding cryptocurrency income taxation in the nation?
There seem to be two diverging views on the crypto-based incomes. The current ruling party in Korea wants to delay it, mainly for two reasons. First, it may lower the motives of the young people to save, especially the 30s and 40s who take larger portions of crypto investors. According to the government, more than 50% of investors are around their 30s and 40s. Given that these generations are important for saving because they take large portions and they can make a lot of money from their workplaces, taxing them might lower the incentive to save, which can potentially lower investment in the Korean economy that drags down the Korean economy. Second, the uncertainty surrounding the crypto asset needs to be resolved so that the government is more clear about how the particular assets should be taxed. Minjo Party, which dominates the Congress, seems to have the opposite view. The crypto asset should be treated in the same way with other types of assets for fairness, and taxing additional income can lower the government deficit, which has been the problem in South Korea for several years, which can be helpful for the Korean economy in the long run. And moreover, there seem to be views that uncertainty itself cannot be the reason why an income should not be taxed, which I also agree with.
Right. And what about Professor Ha? If South Korea proceeds with taxing cryptocurrency income, do you anticipate that the domestic market would face further contraction? What's your outlook?
Yeah, I think it has a contractionary effect on their market volume. In the domestic market, the daily trading volume of cryptocurrencies reaches approximately 2 trillion won right now, but income generated from cryptocurrencies is not yet subjection to taxation, as Professor Shin mentioned about. Now it's debate is ongoing. So recently, with the rise in cryptocurrency prices, the market and industry are becoming more active. However, if taxation is imposed, the post-tax returns are expected to decrease, which could have a negative impact on the market in terms of trading volume. So there's research showing that, there's a recent research showing that if a 20% tax on cryptocurrency is implemented, it can generate up to 1 trillion Korean won in annual tax revenue. So this means that this part of the money will be gone by taxation. So market participants are likely to make investment on crypto asset with this possibility in mind. I think this will have the kind of negative, contractionary impact on the crypto market volume.
Right, so we are currently worried about the trading volume. It could drop. But what about the situation in overseas? Aren't there countries that are already imposing taxation on crypto assets?
Yeah, I mean, many like advanced economies are taxing on crypto assets. So currently, the United States taxes cryptocurrency income at a rate of up to 37%, the UK up to 20%, France at 30%, and Germany and Japan up to 45%. So the government of these countries are also likely to aware that taxing cryptocurrency income could have a negative impact on the market, as I mentioned about. However, in line with the principle that there should be taxes where income exists and compared to other investment assets. So they tend to do so from the perspective of fairness and efficiency of levying taxes. I think the delay in taxation in Korea is not so much due to infrastructure or practical issues, but it's largely driven by political reasons. So this is why we need to take it seriously, the cases of these advanced countries.
Right. And also, aside from cryptocurrencies, the so-called Trump trade that has shaken both domestic and global financial markets seems to be losing momentum. For starters, Professor Shim, what is this Trump trade and what's your assessment of it?
Yeah, the Trump trade refers to big swings, particularly in the financial markets, that result from the president-elect's policy preference, such as high tariffs and less tight regulations on firms. So in terms of the exchange rate at first, while it has been stabilized over the last week from about 1,410 won per dollar to 1,394 won per dollar, which lowered by about 1%. I think that we cannot still be reassured at this moment. Compared to a year ago, Korean won has depreciated by about 8%, while the exchange rate has fluctuated a lot. There is a clear tendency that Korean won has been depreciated a lot compared to the US dollar over the years. In that sense, it is not the time that we can really relive. Looking back the period when Trump was the US president between 2017 and 21, the exchange rate did not rise that much. So given that the value of Korean won is already at a historically low level, except during the IMF crisis, maybe the exchange rate would be stabilized at the current level. And my stance on the stock market is also similar. While there was a short rally after Trump's re-election, the KOSPI index in particular is still at the lowest level during the last 1 year. So I would say that the KOSPI or Kosdaq index might rise again, but maybe the main force behind the rally would not be just the return of Trump, who is favorable for the financial markets. Maybe it can be just a timing issue of the market to rise again, which we usually call as mean reversion.
Right, so there could be a lot of factors that could attribute to that. Now, with the Trump administration's second term on the horizon, the U.S. has redesignated South Korea as a currency watch list country. What are the reasons behind this move, and what impact could it have on South Korea's economy?
Yeah, most important reason is the fact that Korea experienced trade surplus with the U.S. and substantial current account surplus. A country is designated as a currency watch list country by the U.S. if it passes 2 of the 3 criteria. If the trade surplus with the U.S. exceeds $15 billion, the current account surplus exceeds 3% of GDP, and net purchase of the US dollar exceeds 2% of GDP. And thus, it was a natural consequence as the Korean economy has trade and current account surplus during this year. So while the redesignation does not have any direct impact on the Korean economy at this point, it can have a long-run effect, as it may affect the stance of the of Trump when he takes the office. Given that his stance is to maximize the revenue or the benefit of the U.S. economy, he can push the Korean economy to lower trade surplus, maybe through increasing tariffs, pushing firms to produce more within the territory of the U.S., and pushing the Korean won to be kind of appreciated. And I think all of them will be able to lower the trade surplus, which will have the negative impacts on the Korean economy because we really heavily rely on trade surplus.
Right, so we'll have to keep a close eye on what Trump's next move would be in January. Now, in the broader financial markets, how do you see the U.S. dollar's position evolving over the next year in light of Trump's policies and global inflationary pressures?
Yeah, the answer is not that clear because I have a mixed view on this issue. And so there seems to be a large uncertainty surrounding the US dollar at this moment. The policy of the new US government, including protectionism, can be a negative factor for inflation. It pushes up the production cost as well as the market prices because the tariff will increase the price of the imported goods. And so there will be a kind of inflationary pressure that has been stabilized a lot for the last year. This may delay the Fed's decision to lower the interest rate further because they really worry about the inflation rising again. So keeping higher interest rate means that investors would need more US dollar to invest in the US because it is higher rate of return, making the US dollar more expensive. So in this sense, there is a force to make the US dollar strong. However, different from his first term, the situation is somewhat different. The government debt has accumulated a lot since the COVID-19 crisis, and the interest rate is still much higher than when he was in the White House. So these two facts may push Donald Trump to push the Fed to lower the interest rate and not to take too extreme trade policy than we expect. So this may lower the value of the US dollar, which contracts the first that I just mentioned. So overall, whether the US dollar becomes stronger or not really depends on which factor dominates the other. So what I say is that we cannot be that sure at this point whether the US dollar will be appreciated or depreciated.
Right, of course. But still, thank you so much for clarifying the situations and scenarios. I'm afraid we'll have to wrap up our discussion here. Many thanks again to Professor Shim and Professor Ha for sharing your expertise tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Within the Frame. Be sure to tune in next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Until then, stay informed and engaged.